cans living together, Texas Terrier.
When some wild-eyed 8-foot-tall maniac grabs your neck, taps the back of your favorite head up against a barroom wall, he looks at Christy in the eye and he asks if you've paid your dues.
Inconceivable! Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Oh, yes, it is live. We are live. This is Geek Public Radio, live from the game room. It's been a while since we've been in the game room.
It has.
And my favoriteest thing about being live in the game room is we're in the remains of the last game that we played, which was Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Fitting.
It is fitting. It's the season to be the season. Hello.
Well, no, we can hear you.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it is the season for spoopy and spooky and terrifying ghouls and goblins and ghosts and all that crazy nonsense. So I'm jazzed. It's game room looks fantastic and yeah. So how far did you get into that particular campaign before everybody died?
Oh no, they're still alive.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
how?
They're still alive. They're just crazy.
Oh, okay. So you have a merciful game master. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I would make much. I have more fun driving them crazy than killing them.
Well, that's
though they get close.
I'll say that's part of the fun.
But it's actually fitting because it is October.
Yeah.
We're here to talk a little bit about games for Halloween, games for this time of the year.
That's right.
A little bit of thing. Unfortunately, little Sonny has family obligations, and
happens.
He's not there. So a little bit of a blast from the past. Crazy Chris is sitting in with us.
From Sunday Night Madness fame, baby.
Yeah, originally from here. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yes. This is where I got my inauspicious start.
You still contribute on the website and whatnot, and thank you for helping out. But yeah, so this whole show, we're talking Halloween games.
Absolutely. And
horror games. More
for the kids out there, for everybody that's out there listening, if you're not playing 13 Dead End Drive, you're a failure. It's what you should be playing, like right now. If you're not in the middle of that game while you listen to the show, you're a terrible person.
Terrible person. No, so what we're going to talk about is first a little bit of role playing, the RPG tabletop side, and then we'll get into your niche, which is the video games.
Video games, and that's my power to be. It's my claim to fame, which I have none.
So the first game that we're going to talk about, of course, is Call of Cthulhu.
Absolutely,
and like the hundreds of variants you can play in the mythos. So.
It's a great system too, because it's compatible with so many other things. Mm-hmm. So just to incorporate any element from any horror movie or any genre of scary, you can throw it in the Call of Cthulhu universe, and it just works, and it's perfect.
Right. In fact, I kind of did that with what they're running through is a mashup of parts of Carnival Row.
It's a great show, by the way.
Right. Parts of actual Call of Cthulhu, the story, because they ran across all of the works and all of the research that Professor Angel has done.
Did reading it drive them into madness?
No, but researching what it covers, that's the prop.
Oh, you got a whole prop right here.
No, like when I say yes, when I turn around and say that I am running them through, when they got all of the Professor Angel's research.
Yeah.
I mean, they got all of Professor Angel's research.
Oh, that's awesome. You really did. You went all out on this. Because you got the sketchbook, the clippings from the newspaper, the maps, the tomes, the idols. Look at that. That's awesome, man.
And we have Angel's notes. And I do have to say this. The H.P. Lovecraft Historic Society is a blessing when it comes to paper props.
They are. We actually got to meet some of them at Gen Con.
Yes.
And that was spectacular. And
so I did not do the $1,000 to have a professional done prop set.
Well, I mean,
but for $20, you were able to get all of the paper documents.
That's awesome.
And make them yourself, and or print them and have them all done up. And needless to say, my print shop was like, "Oh my, what are you doing?
What are you doing?" It's that moment of confusion when they just don't know whether they should alert the authorities or call the psychiatric center.
Well, it says they're it's all props and whatnot, and they're like, one person thought I was like
in a cult,
working on a play
because
it has all the documents.
Yeah.
The top, it says props, and it has all the stuff, and on like a leader sheet that tells you like how big and what the dimensions of and how to make it look better. So he thought it was a play. One person was like, so is this for a game? And I was like, yeah.
You should have been like, this is real life, bro.
But, and he was like, oh, well, that's great. I would like to get into a game like that with somebody who does that much work on props.
Right.
And I was like, I'll be honest, it was $20 there and about $60 in printing. But
I've seen you game master too, and I will say that attention to detail is very important when you're playing any sit down game, especially atmospheric ones like Call of Cthulhu is a very atmospheric game.
Right.
And if you have any deviation from the atmosphere, it really just takes away from the story. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a good comedy game, laughing and joking, having a good time.
Which actually leads us into the next game on the list.
All right.
So,
so we'll put a pin in that for just 2 seconds,
Yes.
and so anything that can deviate from an atmospheric entry is you kind of want to stay away from it. But at the same time, as a DM, you kind of want your players to still feel like they're having fun. But I like walking into like a Call of Cthulhu or any type of horror based game like that, like even what was that the one that they did for the long time, and I can't remember. It was everything was based on that the not Whispers, that was the name of the campaign, but Vampire.
Yeah, and it's on our list as well.
But anything that can deviate from that atmosphere or make you feel like it, just take you out of it, that's a bad thing. You don't want to do that. So.
Right. What the funny thing is when I talk about when I talk about Call of Cthulhu, I'm talking about all of the little variant stuff that you can play, like all of the other games that are in the Mythos too.
Yeah.
So Trail of Cthulhu and Pulp Cthulhu and all that. Those.
Now, what about like Betrayal of House on the House on the Hill?
That's still in those in a lot of the Arkham House games.
Yes, the Arkham horror games.
Yes,
yeah,
Arkham horror games.
Those are super fun.
I'm talking about even Octon Cthulhu, which is Call of Cthulhu set in World War II.
Yes,
which is amazing.
It's a great setting.
The very first campaign I ran through for my group in Octon Cthulhu had to do with Nazi zombies.
Trey Parker, Matt Stone, be aware.
And no, it was like we were following the campaign. It was the very first campaign for so they're going into Poland and trying to stop this, figure out what was going on, and stop this priest who was, they failed to stop him, so the priest unleashed a Shoggoth into the castle to try to kill the Nazis, who were
beautiful
in the basement or in the dungeons of the castle, reanimating corpses to put out on the battlefield.
I mean, the only thing better than a soldier
and they're
is a reanimated
stuck
soldier.
In the middle, and the characters are stuck in the middle,
trying to figure out.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a fun campaign setting for me because it lets me do two things.
I finished it with a Stuka to the castle.
I get to kill zombies, which is fun, and I get to kill Nazi zombies, which is better. And then I get to fight monsters and demons, and that's where you just get into this out of control setting for me, and that's what I love.
Right.
I'm running into the middle of a battlefield, taking one hit and dying.
You have to say that in several instances it's hilarious because somebody kicks down the front door, the door to one of these things, and goes barging in and catches a shotgun round, a shotgun to the chest.
Just instantly.
He just kicks the door and they go flying backwards. They survived with 2 hit points for the rest of that game, and that was dead middle of the game.
Wow. See, now that's fortunate right there. That's where you
they went to the back.
The dice rolls are bad.
they got bandaged up, and I think the only thing really extraneous outside they were they played hacky sack with a hand grenade. Not
It's
on
my
purpose.
kind of campaign right there. Not on purpose.
It was like, I throw the hand grenade down the stairs. And they horribly, horribly failed. So
It dropped at his feet.
no, I would say it hit and bounced back.
You hit the top of the stairwell, it just bounces right back into your face. Enjoy.
So everybody's like, I kick it in, and they're rolling hundreds.
They're rolling percentile dice and still a roll. God.
Yes, no, like I mean, it is all bit percentile based, and
Right.
so they're rolling hundreds, and they're just like, I'm like, you're not getting it, you're not getting it. You have 3 seconds left, and you're like, do, and finally one guy just picks it up, and scoops it, and shuts the door, and like all one fluid motion, just like, bam,
The old scoop and slam.
and he got hit by the door.
Fair.
As it came.
Well, that's fair,
But
though.
it wasn't like he took like the grenade.
The brunt of it, right. He just took a door to the face.
But it literally was like 4 guys playing like hot potato hacky sack with a with a grenade. Like,
That's
no, I
beautiful.
kick it in. No, I kick it in. No, I kick it in.
That's beautiful.
I was like, okay, apparently nobody here played soccer.
What do you have in your athletics? Nothing. No points. Well, you failed miserably. Sorry.
But so that is my first pick for role playing games for tabletop games.
Sure.
Sliding in, you were talking about the more of the comedy factor,
Yep.
which even in the good horror based games, you have bouts where people try to play hacky sack with a hand grenade.
Or the head of an enemy. That's
Right.
that's actually more typical, I think. I decapitated him. I'm going to kick his head around for a little bit because I have no humanity.
Would be on the comedy end of the old Mayfair games. Chill.
I don't think I ever played that.
I have all of the entire series for second edition up there in the thing. It
Nice.
is amazing for a nice horror comedy setting.
Let's see, and I love that. Like that's so.
You can literally get scared and turn around and run away. Like that is the mechanic. And like in Vampire, we keep referencing Vampire. You know how you Rorschach,
Yeah,
and flee like flames and this, that, and the other.
you're right.
No, you walk into a haunted house, and everything's all creaky. You fail a roll when the picture turns and looks at you and talks to you. You
Right.
fail. You're out the door and down the street,
Down the road.
screaming.
Now, see, that would be fun because
So-
you're waiting for that mechanic to trigger,
Right,
So you
and they got fun monsters like the little old lady down the road. There's a little old lady next door.
right.
Is a monster.
Because of course she is. Because why wouldn't she be?
Right, she eats
Yeah.
little kids.
So the witch in the Hansel and Gretel story,
Yes.
which has a name by the way, and I did never remember. It's not Greta.
Maud Flanders.
Yeah, Maud. All rip. Oh, ding dong. But so like in that same vein, games like Zombicide, which is it's just a card based game. But it's a tile, so it's a build a tile, type of thing where they have different scenarios that you can run through, and each one of the scenarios has like a different outcome depending on what room you're in or depending on what you're searching for or anything like that. You go to these rooms, you search, you got to find out these items, and it's all dependent upon like what you're looking for is dependent upon what scenario you're in.
Right.
But there's times that you'll rummage through something and then you'll uncover a zombie, and so. Or you'll trigger an event in which like all the zombies like fall into this room and you're still standing there and you have no way out. So it's fun and it's also comical because you're watching that guy who's got the movement speed where he can he's darting across their he or she is darting across the map and they get into this area and they're searching and they're way ahead of everybody else, like way outside the help
And
range.
they come running back.
And they can just come running back because you're like, well,
Like,
told
okay,
you
how
not to
much
go
did they
ahead.
pull? What did they pull?
But it's super fun. And then, so games like that, I think are, they've got that comedy aspect of it because it's so cartoonish. It's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be fun,
Right.
without having elements of a fail. and you can die, you can fail on those missions, and it's whatever. Boom, you start the scenario over again, or you move on to the next one. Who cares? Like, it's not a big deal. Whereas, like the Cthulhu games or things like that, like, the purpose is to try not to fail, as hard as you can and just hold on for dear life because the ride's going to get kind of crazy. So, and Zombicide is also like a short game. It's a 2-hour set. Boom, you're done. And you get to move on unless you have my players, which, then it lasts 7, 8, 9, 10 hours.
By the way, in the actual, in some versions, Hansel and Gretel, she is called the gingerbread hag.
The gingerbread hag. I like that.
Yeah. In Engelbert Humperdinck's 1892 opera, she's called Rosina Leckermall.
I think that's it, Rosina.
Which is that translates out to Raisin Sweet Tooth.
Raisin Sweet Tooth. Perfect. I love it. But I think that's the name I remember is Rosina. So that's when you said that, I was like, that makes more sense.
So moving on, next, so right now we have Call of Cthulhu in any of its variations.
Perfect. It's a great game, great settings.
For a setting, you're looking at Chill, which is, like I said, it's got the
Comedy-based.
Scooby-Doo. I mean, it doesn't have to be comedy, but all the elements are there.
Right.
Like, even the bad guys are somewhat comical. You have Zombicide.
Zombicide, that's a great game.
By the way, Chill is where players learn that you should not pee on graves.
Why?
Because something rotted and fell off.
This is
Fell off.
It's a stupid idea.
Well, that's the level of player that sometimes comes across my table. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've met them.
So we've got
It's
Zombicide.
me. I'm the player.
So we got Zombicide as the next one. I think the next wouldn't be on wouldn't be a list without it is, because we talked about it already.
Yep.
Vampire,
absolutely.
And I'm more partial to the Masquerade.
Sure.
Some people like Redemption or whatever the
Requiem.
Requiem.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the video game.
I know what you're thinking of. Oh, they're remaking that, by the way. They're remaking the Masquerade game, and I think it's going to be
It's
awesome.
about time. I mean, they tried. There's such a history with the vampire. And the fact that
it's canon that Kane drives a cab in New York City. So.
the one thing that kills me is the origin for the entire game was with the White Wolf team driving into Gen Con. And they passed through Gary, Indiana. And somebody in the car asked, who would live here? And out of the blue, Mark Reinhagen, who was sitting in the back seat, just piped up vampires.
Vampires.
And seriously, he spent that Gen Con creating the which is normally was 4 days of him partying and having a good time. And,
right. Well, it's the best 4 days in gaming.
It became him in the hotel room with index cards,
writing up games and
developing this game.
Yep, and it's worked, and it's
coming from like
30
since
years,
we're in the Midwest. It seems fitting to make sure that's on the.
It is, and that's why Indianapolis was one of the, and I think for a brief period of time it was the largest collective of vampire gamers. A LARP specifically, it was a LARP, but it was the Camarilla in Indy, and it was the largest one for quite a while. And then Texas got larger, and then they just kind of went back and forth, which is the whole gaming. The whole gaming debate of which players are better, and it's just lasted. It lasts through every genre that I've ever played, any LARP that I've ever been a part of. It's always
with that
history of
you
Texas versus Indiana, and it's so funny.
But the funny thing is you had the Camarilla.
Yep.
You had One World by Night. Mm-hmm. You had several other small ones. You had the Gravediggers Union, which was an Indiana local that had
almost 150 players.
Well, it had I think before it went down, it was like 15 games connected in the state of state of Indiana. Where
it got ridiculous.
Everybody was traveling back and forth and whatnot. So you had that. You had like all of these other small organizations getting together and playing this one game.
Yeah.
and it single-handedly saved
White Wolf?
It shot White Wolf up there, but it also like saved the gaming industry in the sense of like sales revenue.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't gamers who were buying the stuff. It wasn't like the traditional gamers.
Right. It was, casuals. They referred to as casuals.
Or it was also that.
That's how I got started.
And
That's
it was
how I got
also
in,
that whole goth subculture that latched onto it and made it a thing.
Right.
So that is where like tons of new gamers came into the, because they got.
That's me. Like I said,
Vampire.
I'm one of them. That's what hooked me back in. My first game ever was a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and it was second ed. Back when it, in the '90s, early '90s, when it was the devil, and you were summoning spirits and all this other crazy nonsense that got associated with it. Which, by the way, I think really just catapulted it to a cult following.
Could it be Satan?
Is it Satanism? But and I was forbidden to play those games. I wasn't allowed to. It was just it was an unknown factor that just wasn't inviting, blah 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 blah. Well, so I never really bought them, but that was the first thing I ever played. It was my friend Robert and his brother, and we had a blast. It was super fun times, and I thank him for introducing me to that scenario and those campaigns, which are super fun. And of course, Hero Quest, like that, where it was a pre-made board, but man, that game was so fun, and it really cemented. That was my cousin Paul had that, and then I got it, but. That cemented my love of the classic dungeon crawl, where you room to room, and each room has a new experience and new encounters and leveling up and all that crazy stuff. So that was super fun, and that's a good segue into it too. Is Hero Quest is a absolutely fun game.
Well, I mean, if you're more of a D&D player along that lines,
yeah,
the Ravenloft campaign.
Ravenloft was that was
that is a fun that would the Curse of Strahd.
Yeah, all of those games are great.
That are out now for 5th edition.
Are they?
Yeah,
I know they've been releasing books like hotcakes again for 5th ed.
So like running through the Curse of Strahd and all the other for 5th edition is something that is amazing. Like and they keep up with their mythology too. So like if you go back to the older stuff. It builds all that stuff up, and you can actually, if you convert the older campaigns, like you can go through
into the newer setting,
and then you turn around and put in, you can actually run them through like the Fall of Neverwinter, and like rebuilding and reclaiming Neverwinter, and all this other stuff. Like you can actually have that. I have a
lot of people are thought that Neverwinter Nights was a video game first. Right. It was a D&D campaign.
No, you're right, and it's the same as Baldurs Gate. Baldurs Gate is based on
it's all D&D stuff.
Module,
yep. And somebody decided to turn it into a video game, and they were successful, and they did really well, and they were super fun to play. Both of those games were. I never got super into Neverwinter, but Baldur's Gate was super fun.
Going with like an action paranormal type game for the thing, Beyond the Supernatural.
I'm not familiar. That's again probably out of my general scope of games. I'm a casual, I suppose, when it comes to certain
gamer.
Things. I'm not. I'm a hardcore gamer, but there's certain games that I just if it's usually outside like a norm, outside of D&D, Pathfinder, the Call of Cthulhu, stuff like that I probably didn't really get into it. Money's usually an issue with that, so buying stuff is a pain in my ass.
It's based on the Palladium game system.
Okay, Palladium, by the way, was the system that I was trying to think of when I sprouted off Vampire. I know it's not based in Palladium, but that's what I was trying to think of.
Well, that's the thing is this is their supernatural element thing. It's more like movies to equate it to would be like Blade.
Okay.
Scanners. As another.
No, I remember Scanners. I'm as soon as you said Blade, I went to something else, and now I cannot think of. There was the Rift system, but what was the name of that fucking game? It was a cyberpunk game.
See, the really cool thing is it's an action supernatural game.
Right.
So while like in a Lovecraft setting, you're investigating, trying to stop whatever, and going insane. If you're in there, you're more of somebody who's carrying a Glock and a rocket launcher, trying to take down like Ghostbusters can be done in Beyond the Supernatural.
Right. Well, then that sounds like an actual kind of a fun system.
Yeah, because it's literally like they say proton packs and rocket launchers. Never messed with a guy with a Proton glider.
So Shadowrun.
Shadowrun.
That was the one I was just trying to think of. That's a great game to get into if you enjoy kind of your typical dungeon crawl, but with your more supernatural elements. So they have they have dwarves, they have elves, but then they also have vampires and werewolves, and they have all kinds of crazy mythologies inside their circle. But Shadowrun's like a super super fun game, and it has a cyberpunk element where they have technology where you're imbued with
right, but like every
Shadowrun
game that I ever went was you were on a Shadowrun. Like it was like you're like, okay, here's the job, go do it.
Yeah,
and that was like and
not a lot of world building.
Right. So along that line, like Accursed.
Okay.
Is another one that it's modern, but you deal with stuff like Baba Yaga, Chimera, golems, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, mummies.
I'm super surprised, by the way.
And it's actually based in the Savage World system.
Okay, so it's easier to pick up, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really, honest to God, surprised that no one has tried to make a supernatural.
They have.
But
it was a D20.
Was it a D20? I haven't seen a thing about it.
Yeah, they had like 4 or 5, I think 4 or 5 books.
Really? I haven't seen anything about it. I'll have to look that up.
The core book. I have the PDFs.
Do you?
You got the core book and then like a guy, whatever, and then you have the journal,
right?
That is like a bestiary type thing. It has all the monsters in it, and then you have stuff along that lines.
Yep. Another fun one.
I think it got about as much attention as the Firefly game.
Firefly game. Okay, now see that makes sense. Yeah. Which, by the way, that's actually kind of fun.
And Stargate, because Stargate they got a couple books out.
I attempted a Stargate game
and
never got that. But another one I've played that I actually enjoyed as a sit down was Buffy. Believe it or not, like that. That's I understand that it was a game, it was a show that not a lot of people watched, but the mythology that they built in that game or in that show was pretty good, and so they were able to create an entire game system on the mythology and the canon of Angel and Buffy,
right? And
it actually turned out to be a pretty decent game. It's pretty fun, and because so many things exist outside of just Buffy or just Angel. There's a lot more going on. You could play a half werewolf or Lycan. You could play, a vampire. You could be a half demon. All kinds of crazy stuff that, as a result of that show getting more ridiculous, introduced a lot more ridiculous characters that are. This is perfect for a sit down campaign, and it offers up its own little fair share of quirks and silliness and comedy, and it's got the horror aspect of it because you can get trapped in another dimension full of face-eating people haters.
Right?
It can happen. So it was fun.
Along the lines of something different, Dread.
Yes. DREDD.
No, DREAD.
I am the law.
I am the law. I can go from like to
Adrian.
Yeah.
I am the
Adrian. But no, it's a diceless system.
Okay.
So it's almost like a Jenga tower. So as like the more difficult
the task,
the more difficult the pull you have to do from the tower.
Oh.
In order to do said thing.
That actually is kind of a neat.
It's an interesting, I mean, it's a horror-based game, so you got all this, the fun horror aspects.
See, and that's when you startle your player when they've got their hand on the tower.
But then like me, I have a little bit of a shake to my hand. I couldn't play that game because as soon as I go up, it'd be like,
whole tower. Bro, you were just opening a door and you killed us.
Right. But they have something where you can actually decide to just pass. Like I don't want. I'll fail the test.
Right.
Like and just not pull. So it's like
that'd be an awful lot of failure if we were playing with you.
It's like, I won't do
I'm
it.
shooting that guy. Okay, well you got to pull from the middle. I miss. That's fun though.
But so there's that. Now try to get off of the because to kind of wrap up a little bit on the tabletop stuff.
Sure.
There's tons and tons and tons of games.
Oh yeah.
My time with Master. I mean, come on.
Legitimately, a quick Google search for horror-based sit-down games,
right?
Literally, just horror-based sit-down games, and you will pull list after list from nerd sites like ours at Geek Public Radio. Other listings and things like that, where all these games are laid out for you, and then from there, it's just a matter of doing your homework, figure out which game works best for you and your setting, and with your players, especially. That's important. Know your players.
Yeah, and what's funny is I watched my group or my core group start to dwindle as people had stuff to do and things are going on, and like I was down to like running games for 4 people, which from
still respectable.
14 people at a game in a tabletop setting is a bit much, but we would do it every week or every month, and then it dwindled down to I had like 4 people, and then I said, hey, October's coming up, I'm doing Cthulhu. And everybody came back. I'm not joking. Like I have everybody back.
And the thing about it's a system that was built years ago, and it still holds up, and it's still a fun system.
They released the 7th edition, and they changed some stuff in the 7th edition. We're still playing 6th because some of the changes I haven't quite worked out. My guys they like knowing. What like, just tell me what to roll. I'll roll it, and if I fail, I fail. If I succeed, I succeed.
Right.
Which like the 6th edition stuff is pretty, black and white. And
right.
We threw in like if you roll 100, it's critical failure stuff because they love the
the dramatic, the
like,
tension of it.
Oh my god, I can't believe you critically failed your sand roll. Like, So
Or
I make it out to be horrible, like, this, that, and the other, and then I give them the regular penalty.
Right.
But they have a good time with it. So going out of the, from there,
are we going to dive into my end of the pool?
Go into the video game side, because I will tell you that I am not. I mean, last time I was big in like horror games, like video, Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Was like the big,
and the thing about the Five Nights games, just as an aside, as a casual observer, because I never really got into them, and mostly it's because
it's jump scares. I mean, literally an entire game on jump scares.
After about 2 or 3 times, it's completely lost its luster. There's nothing really terribly scary. And is it great for kids? Yeah, it is. It's neat. There's no gore. There's no actual real violence. There's insinuated violence. There's descriptive violence, but there's never really any visual things like that. So, like for a kid, maybe 8 years old and up, it's a pretty fun game. I know it's recommended T for teen, but it's whatever. That's the ratings board, and that's a whole other fucking mess I'm not jumping into right now. But so Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, that's fun if you want a couple of jump scares. If you get a chance to PT, the playable trailer for Silent Hills, that was so good. It was so fun. But of course, it didn't end up getting made into a game.
Right.
That was just a whole hot mess between Hideo Kojima and Konami, who was the producer of the Silent Hill games. But that leads me back to...
But Kojima left and did his own thing.
Well, he did. He left. He wanted to do his own studio, and they went different directions. There was a lot of politics involved with the decision to leave, but... not my circus, not my monkeys. He's still making video games. That makes me happy. But because of that, there's no more Silent Hill games. But if you want a great Halloween-esque type game, it's not really based on Halloween, but it's a scary game. Go back to the original Silent Hill. I promise you it holds up. It absolutely 100% holds up. And when you're playing that game, don't play it in the middle of the day with the lights on. Oh, no, this is Halloween, man. Take all the lights down real low. Maybe have a candle rocking on the table or something and sit there and play that game. And I promise you, it's atmospheric enough. It'll pull you in. The sound effects, the different things that it does to you. It's a psychologically based horror game, and it'll get you. It's super fun. And basically all of them, from 1 to all the way to 4, and then they had several past that were like based in different things. But that's a super fun game to play if you're into the horror-based genre, and you want a game that will suck you in. That's not terribly difficult to play, and it's a survival game. So it's not a game that you're going to pick up a weapon and beat everything to death. It's just not going to happen.
You got to run.
You got to run, and you got to know where you're running. Like that's important too. Like they give you maps. You don't have an access to one, but they give you maps, and you better pay attention when you're looking at it. Especially in the first, the very first one when you're trying to make your way through the hospital. No, it was the second one. I'm sorry. The second one when you're trying to make your way through the hospital, it shows you which way to go. I hope you made it. Because if not, you're going to be down there a long time. And you're probably going to die, and you got to start all over again. But those games are ridiculously fun to play.
Well, you're talking about the psychological. I know it's not a horror game.
No,
I just wanted as an honorable mention. My son got so wrapped up in Gears.
Oh, the new Gears game
the original Gears of War.
Oh, okay.
Where you got to run from light to light, or else the things in the darkness will get you.
Oh yeah.
That he
fun.
Was so wrapped up into that he left the living room to go to the kitchen at the house we were in then, and turned every light on. And in rooms that didn't have a light, because there was like a little nook hallway thing that the light was I just didn't put a light in there. And he was running
full tilt sprint.
I'm talking about he's 17 years old.
Right. It'll get you. Another great
so
game.
Psychologically speaking, that was,
and another game that actually will do that to you too on the psychological scale. And that's my type of horror.
Right.
I love me some old campy B slasher movies. You know what I mean? The Nightmare on Elm Street. The Friday the 13th series. All those are campy. They're supposed to be ridiculous and over the top and full of gore and just doing things that aren't supposed to be done. I agree. The first one in each of those series was supposed to be kind of a more serious type horror movie, but it didn't. It still played out to be campy.
Right.
And even with Evil Dead and things like that. But so I very much enjoy psychological horror, something that will really grab a hold. This is why I love Hellraiser. As far as movies are concerned, I love the Hellraiser series because it's campy-ish, but it's still rooted in the psychological aspect of it, why people do the things that they do. Right. And I think that's what's great about them. But BioShock, the game BioShock, while not necessarily classified as horror, it still falls neatly into that niche of psychological horror. And the way that those games play out, all three of them really, but if you want the atmosphere of spooky, definitely the first two. The third one is it's more bright, it's more colorful, because of where it takes place, as opposed to the first two, which are in Rapture, and you're you're underwater, and that's isolationist. That's isolationism to an extreme. There is no escape. You hit that service button on that elevator, and it carries you down, and you're stuck. There's no escaping, and you can look out the windows and see the fish and stuff like that, and there's cracked windows, there's leaking water, and it gives you that feeling of total abandonment. And you're on your own, and you're trying to solve these questions, and you're trying to figure out what exactly has happened to this area and what your role in these areas are. And, the big daddies and the little sisters. Mm-hmm. You get these weird options. Do I kill her or do I save her? And you have no idea what impact that has on you until the very end, and then you figure out exactly what you were supposed to be doing the whole time, blah, 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 whatever. But those games are super fun.
Right.
But as far as those are concerned, the BioShock games are great. Another great one, and this is flat horror-based. This is a scary game. It's what you're supposed to be. It's Dead by Daylight. And that is it is kind of a party game in which it's mostly all, I think it's all online. You team up with a group of other people, and the one person is chosen at random to be the killer. One person is chosen at random in your group to be the monster, to be the person that chases you. And it's really neat. And Friday the 13th, the new one actually has a similar system in which one person's selected randomly to be Jason, and then he gets to float around with all these supernatural powers. He gets to chase people down and murder them. And it's really cool because you're literally a protagonist in your own game where you're playing against other people, and you get to murder them, hiding under a bed or something stupid like that, you see them and you can track them down. But just that type of mechanic, I think, is really cool. And as far as playability is concerned, it's super fun because, number one, you don't know which one you're going to be. So trying to strategize for that particular thing is kind of hard. You get to pick your characters, but that's a whole other bag. But when you're in that role, do you work with the people that you're with, or do you save yourself? Then if you work with them, if you work with them, it's a lot easier. You can't. I think that's really what's missing from it. You can't be the person that murders them, but you can set them up for failure. Like, yeah, let's work together. Let's do this. Oh, there's the monster. Bye.
It's like, I'm talking about like murdering. Like, well, you can't run if your kneecaps are gone.
Well, yeah.
It gives me an extra couple minutes to get away.
Well, like, dude, while you're there screaming for help, he's going to come to you. He's like, oh, I'm here to help you. But those games are really fun. So,
going kind of a callback, Dead Space.
Oh, yeah. Dead Space was great. That, again, and that works into the isolationism. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Alien Isolation, was great at that too.
Yeah, that was another
super good job.
That was actually my next one. Was Dead Space and an Alien Isolation.
But yeah, Dead Space is great with the way they portray the antagonist. And by the way, guys, I'm trying to talk about these games without giving away too much. I don't want to talk about the stories too much. But every game that I've mentioned so far, with the exception of Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th, they have exceptional stories, and these are not casual games, because I can get behind a horror trope, but there's only so much of it that I can get behind before I become bored, and I'm like, what's the point of this? This is really stupid. It's not got a good story, and I think that's the key. Is great writing really ties together an atmosphere,
right?
And Dead Space did fantastic with that. It gave you every glimmer of hope just to shatter it in front of your eyes. Oh my God, I can do a thing. Oh, nope, I can't. Oh, this must be the end. Nah, bro, you're about halfway through. And it gives you the tools to fight back. Now, that's a particular game in which you have to kill the monsters. Mm-hmm. And not in every scenario do you have to, but for the most part, if you want to survive, you don't turn your back. And the tools that they give, the nail gun and the rail guns and stuff like that, those are super fun. But it's actually one of the first games that introduced the dismemberment system as a core mechanic. So, certain creatures will attack you with their hands. Well, okay, cool, I'm going to blow your arms off, and now you can't. And, you increase your survivability by doing stuff like that. So the Dead Space games, and there's 3 of them, the Dead Space games really did a pretty good job of being scary and action at the same time.
Right.
So when you sat back and thought about it and had time to think about it, the atmosphere built up on you, and then you'd be startled by a scene or something like that, and then the action would pick up, your adrenaline would kick in, and you'd be going. And then afterwards, you'd sit back and you'd settle, and you'd be like, holy shit, that was intense. Like they did, and that's what that game really excelled at, was building up the anticipation, rewarding you with a hard fight, and then having that moment of peace before the next episode where you had to continue the same fight. Doom, on the other hand, while gory and scary to a degree, I wouldn't say so. Like, it's not my kind of scary. Doesn't bother me, those particular things. Doom has the same type of atmosphere, but it's not scary because you just genuinely don't have time to be scared. Like, you are running and gunning, and the thing about it is, you're the badass. You're the one that they should be scared of. And so that makes that game a lot easier. So I wouldn't include Doom in that list of scary games, but it's, if you're going to play a game and you just want to wreak havoc and blow stuff up, Doom. Go play Doom. It fits the season. Go blow shit up. Go have a good time. If you want to be the badass in the horror game, that's what you do. Go play Doom. But yeah, so Dead Space did a great job. Alien Isolation. That's a really great game because you just don't have a fucking prayer. You just don't.
Just to put that out there.
Just when you start and boot that game up and you get, the objectives and you're being talked to, and then all of a sudden you're just
alone.
Fucking have fun.
This isn't going to be too bad. It's going to, okay, where did everybody go?
Yeah. It's not Aliens versus Predator, man. Like you don't get a gun. You don't get nothing. You get your wits. And the fact that the alien is like 6 times bigger than you, so you can fit into places that it can't reach.
But it tries.
But until you remember that it's got a mouth that sticks out 3 feet,
right.
and a tail that can literally, it's a prehensile tail. And it can literally grab you and like pick you. Like, yeah. So it's the type of game where you're like, oh man, I'm safe in this locker. It can't find me in here. And then all of a sudden you're just being dragged out by your forehead.
With no warning.
No warning. Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did a really good job of scaring the episode.
Dang.
And that's one that's it's anticipation. And I think that's what it capitalizes on what the old horror movies used to capitalize on, which was you might be 2 hours before you see the alien.
Right.
2 hours of you sweating profusely, trying to just crawl your way through this area and just make it to the door to move to the next area, and then
like it's literally like it just
a foot away, a foot away from the door, and then bam, you're caught. Like, you know what I mean? It's great. And then they incorporated a really neat system into that game, which I think a lot of people missed, which was it had a thing where it could track your pulse and monitor sound from your controller. So while you're playing it, you could enable those features. And so it would pick up your heartbeat. So thump, 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 and it would put it on the screen and show you your heartbeat. I mean, you're out of control. But it would pick up sound and up to and including your breathing. So if you're going, it would translate that into you making noise in the game, and the alien could find you easier. So, when you got caught, you really had no one to blame but yourself.
and you're like,
yeah, and you find yourself holding your breath for long periods of time, up to like when you hide somewhere and you see the alien flitting by, and you're like, and you're holding your breath because you don't want to get caught.
Along those lines, it's been forever since I broke out the VR headgear.
Sure.
I finally did. I was watching Evil last night.
Nice.
Really good TV series, by the way.
I'll check it out. I've seen previews, but I've not
sat
much to it.
Anyway. Well, last night they had something about the kids got VR goggles and whatnot, and they were alternate reality stuff. So like it's like you can see through it and whatever, but like they would lay over stuff.
Nice.
And I was like, I want that game, so I dug out my old VR goggles just to play around. And the Face Your Fear, which is free for the Oculus, stuff. They actually had a Stranger Things room.
Really?
Where you're sitting in the room, you can look out the window and see the car sitting outside. And, like the TV's going, whatever, and then you could to whatever, and then it goes out, and then like the lights start flickering and things start happening, and like you don't realize you like my brain was like, I know this is all fake. I'm just literally sitting on a couch like with my hands in my lap, going, okay, what? And you don't know how unnerving it is to have like Demogorgon like put its face like and then open its like right in front of you, and it's like all cheesy. I mean,
of course,
it's an older thing. Yeah, they did it right around
first
season 2.
Oh, season 2. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's about a year old, year or two.
About 2 years at this point. Yeah.
So it was like it opened up, and you're like, okay, and then like some guy comes charging in and beats the thing away from him, and you pull it out, and all this stuff happens, and it's like, the closeness, like. Even though I'm literally sitting on my couch.
And you're safe.
And there's nobody around me. It just feels like, And so I think we should do, like, maybe an article on what's on the VR horror games? Because I have a ton of them on there.
And I've actually, so when I was working at the place that I was working at, I was actually working in their VR section. And so part of my job was to play test all of the games that they had on there, like Emily Wants to Play. That's actually a really super fun one, and it's wicked cheesy, right? But the way that it's built is, you have to like go through this house and do all these things, and you're kind of like, and it's a teleport function. So you move, and then, but as you look around, of course, the VR helmet like registers your movement, and you have little hands, and you can grab stuff. So it incorporates like the full controls as opposed to just the witnessing. But as you go through, like different things begin to happen. There's a hallway where you have to walk, and then as you get halfway down the hallway, the light turns off, and you're like, okay. You get to the end, and you see the little light switch, and you flip the light switch on. You turn back around, and then there's like you see the flash. She runs out of the room, and you're like, whoa, it's cool little stuff like that. That's a fun one. Emily Wants to Play was a good one.
If anybody who's out there who has the skills to pay the bills, so to speak, wants to make Lights Out game VR.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Like, flip the lights. You can like literally turn the lights off, and like as soon as the lights off, she's right there.
Yeah,
that type of thing would be hilarious for me to watch my wife play.
It would. I would laugh. Hey, you're making my chair go down, Bo.
But yeah, so if you have the knowledge of stuff like that, and if you happen to, by the way, leave a comment in the thing.
Tell us your favorite horror game.
Yeah, if you know of an actual alternate reality and a AR VR game that works on the Oculus,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, tell us, like, for sure.
Because I want to play one. Where like it puts the ghosts in the screen, like overlays them into your into your reality, so to speak, or whatever.
Yeah, but say Nintendo's actually working on alternate reality stuff, the AR instead of the VR, and that's they actually like filed a couple patents for while they were making the Switch, and the Switch is ironically the appropriate size to create a headset. And there are cameras that are on the back of the Switch that they serve no function other than, being able to register specific movement. And there are sensors there's actually gyro sensors that are built into the Switch. And on top of that, they've already done VR Labo, by the way, which is really cool. Everybody seems to like the VR Labo thing. But the handles also have sensors, or the Joy-Cons actually have sensors built in. So it already is a VR system that nobody even realized was a VR system. So it's a console. It's a console. It's a handheld gaming device, and it's a VR system. And I'm like, Nintendo's cashing in, and no one even thought about trying to catch up. That's why Nintendo's like, release your PS5, bro. Cool. Your realistic graphics. Whatever. We'll just take our $38 billion and go sit over here on our mountain of fucking gold.
But leave a message in the comment, like what your favorite game, because there's tons of horror games. I know there's tons of horror games.
We barely brushed the surface. These are ones I fired off the top of my head,
right?
But fun games that I've liked, that I've enjoyed playing. But
it's like I said with the RPGs and stuff. I was like, my time with Master, all of those.
Oh, there's actually a Cthulhu-based video game that was, and I can't for
Call of Cthulhu.
Well, no, there's Call of Cthulhu too, but there's another one, and I can't remember what it was called.
Because you have like the new Call of Cthulhu,
like a whole sanity system, and it was really neat.
And then you have Dark Corners of the Earth, which is one of the very first Call of Cthulhu games that came out. Like I said, but there was a Call of Cthulhu game out in the last year that I have not got to play yet, and it drives me insane that I haven't.
There was one that was called Remember My Name or something like that. And you wake up in this thing, or was it Amnesia? Maybe that was the name of the game.
Amnesia is a good one too.
Yes, that was fun. That game was super fun. And as you go through, you're unlocking clues of your past. It's almost like a Memento type of scenario in a horror game. But it's all Cthulhu based, and it's super fucking cool. I had a blast playing that.
So
never made it to the end, so I have no idea what the actual story is. So I couldn't even spoil it if I wanted to.
So leave us a message with your favorite tabletop RPGs.
Yes, tell us, talk to us.
Your favorite video games to play for the October season.
It is Halloween,
and if it's something we haven't tried, we will definitely give it a go.
Yeah, and we can put up a review on the GPR page too. So I mean, it's nothing. That's it's a couple articles for us. That's nothing.
So thanks for hanging out with us. This is the GPR live from the game room.
Woo!
Once again. I am Topher. That is Crazy Chris.
I am Crazy Chris, and that's Topher.
And we will see you guys later.
Have a happy Halloween.